The interactive window that appeared on the computer asked about the boredom of real life and offered to feel really alive. Thinking about spam, the person pointed the mouse at the cross to close the annoying advertisement. There was a young man sitting at the computer, Lin Xiu, who was an unemployed nerd who lived in the 21st century. His room was a complete mess, which, apparently, had not been cleaned for a long time. After grumbling a little, he continued to go about his business, but after a while his eyes widened in amazement, and even the lollipop that was in his mouth fell out. A portal opened in his computer, and Lin Xiu began to fall into it as if he had been dragged into it by force. He couldn't believe what was happening, but at that moment a window appeared in front of him. The one that appeared not so long ago on his computer. The system congratulated him on the right choice. She also told him about the further journey, where this god-level system would provide him with its full service. With indignant cries, Lin Xiu tried to shout to someone, saying that he did not agree to anything, but he did not receive an answer to his screams. Some time later, the portal moved Lin Xiu to Earth in 2696 AD on the territory of the Starlight Academy. In 2666, the planet Earth was invaded by an alien. As a result, a federation was formed, which, with the help of nuclear weapons, cleared the planet of extraterrestrial life forms. However, their invasion did not pass without disastrous consequences. The X-virus they left behind has swept the globe. The planet underwent total changes. Zombies and mutated animals began to rule it, and the path of military improvement opened up for the survivors in the process of evolution. And since then, the warriors have gained boundless honor on Earth. Suddenly there was a loud knock. A muscular guy unceremoniously entered the room, kicking the door open with his foot. One of the local people appeared on the threshold of the room. There were also two other guys standing around him. One of them started calling Lin Xiu with an angry shout. It was Ma Qiang, Lin Xiu's roommate. He was a member of the 29th group of the Starlight Academy and held the position of a novice warrior. Looking irritably in the direction where his neighbor was sleeping, he came up and grabbed him by the throat. Lin Xiu was also a member of the 29th group of Starlight Academy. However, he did not have the talent to improve. Out of anger for not doing his errand, Ma Qiang threw Lin Xiu into the wall. The impact was so impressive that it left a dent in the wall. Lin Xiu was lying unconscious near the wall, but the offenders only mocked him, pointing out his miserable position in society. Coming a little closer, Ma Qiang stepped on the guy's hand. It was akin to humiliation. Lin Xiu had to wash the floor, wash clothes, and much more. And for disobedience, they used him as a punching bag. The moment Ma Qiang pressed his arm a little harder, Lin Xiu began to regain consciousness. The first thing he felt was a sharp pain, but he was tormented by completely different thoughts. He didn't understand what was going on and why he was in this place. Ma Qiang, who was bending over him, straightened up and moved some distance away from him. This gave Lin Xiu the opportunity to get to his feet. But before he could fully straighten up, the guy struck again. Once again, Lin Xiu flew into the wall, and then he finally realized that he had moved in time. He was lying exhausted against this wall and bleeding. At that moment, various memories surfaced in his head, where many of his fellow students humiliated him, and the authorities not only turned a blind eye to it, but they themselves did not put him in anything. All these people were very hostile to him, so the former owner of this body could not cope with such pressure from the outside that he decided to rid himself of it. Realizing how sad everything was, Lin Xiu did not lose heart. He got back on his feet and began to talk about how to clean up the mess that had fallen on him. A ray of fierce light flashed in his eyes. Then Ma Qiang turned in his direction and decided to finish what he had started. He rushed forward and stabbed in the stomach. He was moving very fast, and Lin Xiu didn't have time to react. Ma Qiang demanded obedience from the guy, but when he refused, he received blows all over his body. Unable to stand such an attitude towards himself, Lin Xiu shouted that he would never obey them. Ma Qiang was filled with anger. When the continuous blows stopped for a while, Lin Xiu thought that if he had moved in space and time, he should have something similar to the cheaters' bells and whistles provided to the hitmen. Just as Lin Xiu thought about this, the system that announced the successful completion of the accumulation of anger appeared in front of him again. Additionally, a scoreboard was shown, where all its characteristics were provided. For example, the ability, the Eye of Analysis. The system asked a question and provided a choice where Lin Xiu could take advantage of the accumulated force strike. At the moment when he was busy with the system, Ma Qiang swung at him. Lin Xiu decided to use the chance given to him. Clenching his fist, Lin Xiu hit Ma Qiang back hard. Lin Xiu's blow landed on Ma Qiang's arm, and at the same moment, the bones of his arm were shattered. From such a strong blow, he even flew to the next wall. The two guys who were at one with him looked back in the direction where Ma Qiang had fallen. Fear appeared on their faces. They quickly ran up to him out of fright. Ma Qian's eyes rolled back and he lost consciousness. They tried to talk to him to find out about his condition, but all he could mumble was the word hospital. Turning towards Lin Xiu, they saw a guy standing firmly on his feet, who was glaring at them angrily. In the blink of an eye, they threw Ma Qian over their shoulder and carried him to the hospital in tears. Finally, the exhausted Lin Xiu was able to lean on the wall and tried to catch his breath. Sitting down on the nearest chair to catch his breath, he saw another window pop up in front of him. It offered to use a blow of accumulated force to use a gift for defeating the enemy one spin. Of course, Lin Xiu was interested in this, and he decided to give it a try. Suddenly, a huge lottery wheel appeared. It was divided into 12 sections, and in each section there were a large number of sparkling objects. By pressing the button, he hoped to get the money. The lottery wheel is in motion. Lin Xiu held his breath. He needed at least some savings with which he could pay for his treatment. Having completed its turn, the wheel stopped at the desired cell. The prize in the lottery was 10,000 coins. He exhaled wearily from relief, lifting his head up. After a while, Lin Xiu reached the infirmary. After knocking on the door and saying hello, he went into the office. In front of him he saw a beautiful girl in a medical gown with long hair, who was sitting at a table and was intently examining something in a specially equipped tablet. She addressed him in a friendly manner, with a slight smile on her face. Lin Xiu was surprised and pleasantly shocked that the girl was not negatively disposed towards him. They had a conversation, and he realized that the nurse knew him. Lin Xiu was known as Kid Lin, the guy who ranks last in the Starlight rankings. The nurse leaned on her desk. After looking at the guy, she invited him to undress and go to the place where she would inspect him. Embarrassed, Lin Xiu asked the nurse what she meant when she said that it was necessary to undress. It turned out that the girl was just making fun of him. She asked him to take off only his outer clothes. The guy immediately fulfilled all the requirements of the nurse. The doctor's office was also a smart system, and there was a treatment capsule inside it. Having settled into one of these capsules, Lin Xiu chose a reducing solution for 9,800 coins. While the procedure was going on, Lin Xiu was lost in his thoughts. He had a lot to think about. There was plenty of time, as a 5-hour treatment in a capsule is required to restore one's strength. Closing his eyes and plunging into the green solution in the capsule, he began his treatment. A few hours later, in the 29th group, the head teacher spoke about the quota of people who would go to the A20 sector this time to practice in a real combat situation. Such a quota consisted of 20 people, and all the warriors of the initial stage who were in this group could take part in it. After examining the audience, the head did not notice Ma Qian and decided to clarify where he was disappearing. The guys who were aware of the situation said that there was a clash between Lin Xiu and their friend. This conflict was so serious that Ma Qian needed medical surgery in Sector C. The teacher was stunned and demanded to explain what it all meant. Then one of those present shouted out the name of the culprit. He blamed Lin Xiu for Ma Qian being in such a state because of him, as he had beaten him. The guy on the side burst out laughing. The others started laughing too. Lin Xiu was the weakest student in the academy. How could such a worthless person beat Ma Qian so badly? No one could believe it. Trying to interrupt the students, the head said that since Ma Qian was unwell, he would not have to go to practical training in the A20 sector. At that moment, Lin Xiu appeared on the doorstep of the office. He stood more than confident. The injuries on his body disappeared, and his entire body seemed to be filled with energy. Turning to the teacher, he asked if he could go to this training instead of Ma Qian. All eyes turned to Lin Xiu. Everyone noticed a strange change in his behavior. The teacher anxiously began to dissuade the young man. After all, he understood that Lin Xiu had not even reached the initial level of a warrior, and it was dangerous to get into trouble. A voice rang out from the classroom. The guy called out to Lin Xiu with disdain. He continued his conversation about the fact that the A20 area is full of zombies and mutated animals, and, apparently, someone decided to part with his head. The others also looked at Lin Xiu as an imbecile. Lin Xiu responded to such contempt with a sneer. After looking at that guy, Lin Xiu offered him a deal, the meaning of which was that if he could defeat him, Lin Xiu would go to the place where the exercises were conducted. The guy again asked with mockery and disbelief if he was sure he could overcome him. Then Lin Xiu started provoking his classmate. His plan worked successfully. Realizing that Lin Xiu was provoking him, he felt insulted. Angrily jumping up from his seat, he agreed to the bet. Looking at the guy, Lin Xiu used his eye of analysis ability. Information about the guy with whom he was going to fight surfaced in front of him. His name was Zhu Jun, a warrior of the initial stage, whose total combat capability left 443. Lin Xiu realized that Zhu Jun was slightly weaker than Ma Qian. He will just have to carefully dodge his attacks, and when the anger scale is fully filled, he will use it. With his punch filled with power, Lin Xiu will easily knock Xiu Jun out. After exchanging glances, both guys with full determination to win agreed to see each other at the training arena after classes. After a while, everyone was already at the training arena of the Starlight Academy. A huge crowd of people surrounded the stadium. Many did not believe in Lin Xiu. They believed that he had blown his brains off since he dared to compete with someone who was not his level. Everyone expected to admire the upcoming show. While Lin Xiu was walking towards the arena, one of the people present ran up to him. The red-haired guy also tried to dissuade the guy from this dangerous idea. Lin Xiu calmed him down by saying that he had wanted to get even with him for a long time. With these words, Lin Xiu went up to the arena, where Xiu Jun was already waiting for him. At that moment, he made his move. Taking off with great speed and swinging, Xiu Jun headed towards Lin Xiu. The guy was able to react immediately, blocking the blow with both hands, but still felt a lot of pain from the attack. Under the influence of the anger caused by the blow, Xiu Jun, Lin Xiu's strength immediately rose by 20 points. Now he only had to dodge and resist in order to accumulate strength for the blow. From the accumulated anger, Lin Xiu's strength grew 30%, 40%, and now it has reached 70%. Noticing that Lin Xiu was constantly running away, the audience began to laugh and humiliate him. Only the teacher, who was sitting in the stands, thought about what was happening. The man looked at the guy and realized that he did not give up his positions, despite the fact that he only dodged. The teacher was delighted by the determination in his eyes. Seeing Lin Xiu constantly avoiding him, Xiu Jun flew into a mad rage. He quickly rushed towards Lin Xiu to strike another blow. At that moment, the anger mark reached 100%. There was already a well-known system that suggested using a blow of accumulated force. Confidently agreeing to this, Lin Xiu shouted and sent all his strength towards the enemy. When the fists of the combatants met, Xiu Jun was knocked out. No one could believe their eyes, it was too strange. As if forgetting about the pain in his body and bleeding, Xiu Jun screamed loudly. He refused to believe what was happening. Standing in the arena, Lin Xiu looked down with a haughty look and mockery at where his opponent was lying. Although the teacher was shocked, he asked the students to send Xiu Jun to the infirmary, where he could receive medical care. Two fellow students approached the victim and picked him up. Xiu Jun leaned on them, and they all left. There was a teacher standing behind Lin Xiu. He applauded with admiration, as the guy made everyone look at himself in a new way with his behavior. Turning around, Lin Xiu asked his question again. Since he won the bet, can he now go to the A20 sector? Sector A20 is an extremely dangerous place located in the northern district of the city. Sector A20 is a zone of radioactive contamination, in which a mutated virus is rampant, and where zombies and mutant animals roam everywhere. However, the crisis and prospects exist hand in hand. Many parts of the bodies of mutant animals are raw materials and materials in great demand. Moreover, the abnormal crystal contained in their brain is an invaluable crystal rock that can provide assistance in improving the special abilities of warriors. A crowd gathered before leaving for the A20 sector. Each warrior was equipped in a combat suit and had a blade with him, and each of them had to listen to the briefing. In the center stood the teacher. He gave a motivational speech in parting words. The guys need to overcome their fear of monsters. If they can't, they will immediately die from the teeth of the first-rank zombies. The red-haired guy standing next to Lin Xiu addressed him. He wondered if he was afraid to go. However, for Lin Xiu, it was a great opportunity to accumulate invaluable experience to raise the level. The teacher kept talking. He announced that 4 groups will be formed out of 20 soldiers who will go to the A20 sector. And finally, he reminded the guys not to go deep into the sector, since there is a force of enemies there and it is extremely dangerous. Everyone was ready to go. Arriving at the boundary of the A20 sector, the 4 teams dispersed in different directions. Lin Xiu was in the same group with a chubby red-haired boy who was more or less friendly towards him, which cannot be said about the other 2 guys. The blonde man and another with an unusual appearance. The student also insulted Lin Xiu, asking him not to get in their way. However, he did not react to such provocations in any way. He focused his attention on the surrounding situation. After walking around the sector for a while, Lin Xiu raised his hand, as if urging everyone to listen to him. He alerted them to some movement ahead. The guys were scared and immediately covered in cold sweat. The guys were confused, but having prepared for the battle, they stood in a combat readiness pose. Lin Xiu immediately activated his analytical eyes. A zombie of the first rank appeared before them. His peculiarity was his low mobility, pointed teeth, and the fact that he was a carrier of the virus. The zombie charged without hesitation. Lin Xiu assessed the situation and concluded that even a low-ranked zombie had a higher combat power than him. Lin Xiu believed that killing monsters would definitely give him a lot of experience, so he picked up a thin but sharp combat blade and rushed forward. Swinging the blade, the guy deftly cut his body into 2 parts. The system congratulated the young man on the successful destruction of a monster of the 1st rank and awarded him 200 experience points. And also by his actions, Lin Xiu raised his level to the 2nd rank. The young man decided to put all the obtained characteristics into the force, and it instantly increased to the level of 38. The zombies seemed to sense their presence and started rushing towards them. They started attacking Lin Xiu, who retreated almost immediately. The blonde from his team snorted and rushed forward, straining all his strength to chop, and pretty quickly dealt with several zombies. His name was Zhang Yi, and he was one of the many who despised Lin Xiu. Turning to Lin Xiu, he asked him with a nasty grin on his face if he was trembling from fear. The few zombies that Zhang Yi captured caused Lin Xiu heartache. They were all experience points that he wanted to earn so much. Lin Xiu paid no attention to the bullies. The most important thing for him was to hunt and kill zombies in order to level up, so he went ahead to inspect the territory. As they continued to move forward, they could clearly see the outline of the city. The trees were too tall and covered all the buildings. Lin Xiu and the others looked around. They were careful and were afraid that something might appear. Lin Xiu stopped the guys, sensing that something was heading in their direction ahead. A guy with a bun on his head noticed a zombie similar to the one they had previously destroyed. He confidently took out his blade and joyfully rushed forward. Lin Xiu used the eye of the eye to assess the opponent's strength. This was not the zombie they had met before. It turned out that the monster standing in front of them is the leader of all zombies of the 1st rank. That is why its characteristics were more pumped up. He had high speed, sharpened teeth, and most importantly, he was able to summon zombies of the 1st rank to his aid. Lin Xiu warned the guys not to approach him, but the self-confident guy did not listen to him. Then the leader headed at him with great speed. It was so unexpected that he didn't have time to react in time and was knocked to the ground. The zombie opened its mouth to bite the purple-haired one. Zhang Yi reacted quickly and kicked the zombie in the head, causing it to fly off to the side. Without hesitating, Zhang Yi swung his blade. At that moment, Lin Xiu tried to stop him, warning him that he would be able to summon level 1 zombies. Then it will be problematic. Lin Xiu replied with a serious expression. Zhang Yi was clearly displeased with Lin Xiu. He always looked at him with contempt and could not accept that he would teach him what to do and how to do it. He immediately rushed forward with his battle blade. Zhang Yi jumped up high and hit the zombie boss's arm and chopped it off completely. The zombie knew how to dodge attacks, so Zhang Yi's plan to kill the leader failed. The zombie suddenly let out a loud roar that shook the whole neighborhood. From the signal of the leader, his henchmen began to climb out of the ground, going to the aid of their master. There were more and more zombies. There were already more than 10 of them in total. Zhang Yi was speechless. The number of zombies scared him too. He got cold feet and ran away. Another member of their group ran after him. There are 2 of them left on the battlefield. The red-haired boy, who was not negative towards Lin Xiu, offered to leave them as well. But Lin Xiu had no intention of backing down. He pursued only one goal, to increase his level. But to do that, he needs to stay and impress the whole crowd. He pulled out his blade and rushed towards the monsters. Apart from the zombie boss, the rest of the level 1 zombies were slow. He felt that this would probably help them defeat them. Swinging his blade, he got rid of everyone indiscriminately. Blood flew in all directions. The red-haired guy, seeing how he continues to kill zombies, wondered for a moment if he was exactly familiar with the Lin Xiu that he now sees in front of him. Then, taking his battle blade, he joined a friend to deal with the zombies. There were only 2 of them, and there were a dozen opponents, but none of them thought to give up. But suddenly Lin Xiu was attacked by the leader. He knocked him to the ground to bite him. A friend called out to him with concern. While Lin Xiu was lying on the ground and trying not to get bitten, messages constantly appeared in front of him that he was gaining experience points. He saw that he had already reached the 5th level. In addition, he had 12 experience points. His strength increased to 50 points, and the power instantly burst into Lin Xiu's body. He gripped the zombie leader's head tightly and snapped his neck with a sharp movement. The moment the zombie's body was immobilized, Lin Xiu kicked it to the ground. Picking up the blade, he mercilessly chopped off the zombie's head. Having dealt with everyone, Lin Xiu and his friend could finally catch their breath. The pop-up system once again congratulated Lin Xiu on his victory. For the destruction of the leader of the zombies, his level was successfully raised to the 6th, and the system of genetic locks was also unlocked. Looking at the system, Lin Xiu began to talk about the essence of genetic locks. He had seen them mentioned in the literature on perfection before. Among the human genome, there is quite a large part of the genes that a person cannot use. It is for this reason that humanity is not able to fully realize its potential. According to legends, if a person manages to unlock the genetic locks in his body, he will be able to reach the peak of his potential and become a being akin to God. Lin Xiu wondered how much stronger he could become after opening the first lock. He pressed the unlock button curiously. Lin Xiu wanted to open the lock. However, a red sign lit up in front of him, not allowing him to make a choice due to the absence of the 15th level, so opening is impossible. Unfortunately, Lin Xiu had no choice but to continue killing monsters until he fulfilled the condition for unlocking. A red-haired guy with glasses on his head turned incredulously to his partner. He wondered if he was really the person he knew. Lin Xiu really killed this zombie boss without much difficulty. In addition, he felt that there were some changes in Lin Xiu's body. It seemed that he had suddenly become much stronger. Lin Xiu suggested that they continue exploring the surroundings together. Soon the guys reached the forest, where there was a sign forbidding entry into this territory for the soldiers of the initial stage. Remembering the words of the teacher, they understood what exactly he was talking about. Lin Xiu was lost in his thoughts. He reasoned that they didn't meet anyone on the way here, so he didn't have the opportunity to gain experience. Meanwhile, while Lin Xiu was lost in his thoughts, his red-haired partner began to look at the surroundings. Seeing something nearby, he called his friend with fright. There was a snake sitting on a tree. Using the already familiar ability, Lin Xiu saw nothing but the name of the monster and its rank. In front of them was a snake, an allochroic python belonging to the 3rd rank. His natural ability was the ability to change color like a chameleon. Lin Xiu was scared. This was the first time he had encountered something that could not be analyzed. Backing away, the guys watched the snake's actions warily. The python slowly slid down from the tree, but only when it landed on the ground, it opened its mouth and began to attack. Thanks to its flexible and writhing body, the snake could deftly strike, covering a large distance around itself. The guys scattered in different directions without looking around, but the monster aimed at Lin Xiu. The red-haired man also continued to run, and when he turned his head, he realized that his partner was already running into the depths of the forest. He wanted to warn him that he was running in the wrong direction, but he had already disappeared. Lin Xiu did his best and ran quite a long distance. When he turned around, he realized that the giant python had disappeared. However, Lin Xiu didn't dare to be too careless. After all, this color-changing python could disguise itself as the environment. That was the scariest thing. He could be hiding somewhere and waiting to attack him. Lin Xiu took a breath for a second, but then he noticed an arrow from a crossbow aimed at him in front of him. The group of people who suddenly appeared in front of him had all kinds of weapons in their hands, and one of them even carried the corpse of a beast on his shoulder. The leader of the group looked at his Lin Xiu battle suit and realized that it belonged to the Starlight Academy. Lin Xiu knew that he was in the wrong place at the moment. These people were clearly a group of adventurers specializing in hunting zombies and beasts for the sake of extracting valuable materials. Each of them already officially holds the rank of a warrior. Lin Xiu was clearly inferior to them in strength. A man with a huge blade came up and examined the young man, snatching the blade from him. He offered him a deal where Lin Xiu should leave his blade, and then they would let him go. There was a hint of murderous intent in his eyes, and he looked intimidating. Losing a combat blade would be equivalent to losing combat strength. The man grinned and wanted to swing it at Lin Xiu, but it wasn't there. Seeing the adventurers behind the group, Lin Xiu pointed his finger at the approaching monster. The man who threatened the guy looked back in disbelief. No one felt the presence of the monster behind their backs. However, the snake had already crept too close and swallowed one of the group of adventurers, who did not have time to react to the monster's attack. Half of the man who had snatched Lin Xiu's battle blade was left. The guy with the huge sword looked at his comrades and offered to kill the python. They will be able to sell the abnormal crystal of an evolved rank 3 beast and the skin of this python for a lot of money. The eyes of several people lit up when they heard this. At this moment, they were very excited. It seemed that because of the python's appearance, the group of people forgot about Lin Xiu, who was hiding to the side. He squatted down and looked at the situation through the stone wall. The analytical eye was activated, and he was able to see that these people were warriors of the 1st rank. All these people inflicted a huge number of blows, but the snake easily blocked, not allowing them to get closer to her. Lin Xiu didn't think about the snake or the people fighting it. He was trying to find an opportunity to grab his weapon and leave this place as quickly as possible. The python, with the help of its massive tail, easily threw away the people attacking it. The man with the huge sword had already run up to the python and swung his huge sword, planning to hit the monster. However, the snake quickly reacted to the attack and, opening its large mouth, spat out a large amount of green substance. The warrior was caught off guard and fell into it. He groaned in pain as his hand was completely covered in blood. It was as if the liquid was corroding his body. Several of the still surviving warriors aimed at the monster's head. They continuously struck it all over the body. In the end, the only surviving man was able to defeat the Trairang monster. The lower part of the neck was not protected by scales, so the dagger easily pierced through it. This led to the death of the python. When Lin Xiu was about to stand up and pick up his blade, he made a sound that attracted the attention of the only male survivor. He swore at the young man for bringing this creature here. At that moment, the man with the long sword pointed in the direction where Lin Xiu was hiding. He ordered to immediately approach the snake, cut off its skin and extract the abnormal crystal. For disobedience, the man threatened Lin Xiu to kill him. Since the warrior had just fought a color-changing python, he looked slightly injured and exhausted at this moment. Lin Xiu looked at the ground and saw his battle blade. Lin Xiu thought that this man was injured and that his strength had decreased a lot. Therefore, the guy brazenly declared that the trophies would go to none other than him. From what he heard, the man was in anger. He was filled with anger. A conflict broke out between Lin Xiu and the surviving man. After the recent battle, the warrior's strength was running out, so Lin Xiu easily dodged his attacks. There was a loud sound, and the guy's hand holding the long sword was instantly chopped off. The guy who lost his right arm fell to the ground and groaned. The warrior belonged to the Zhang family, and he was trying to intimidate Lin Xiu with this. At that moment, Lin Xiu's face darkened with anger. The guy saw the fierce gleam in Lin Xiu's eyes. His expression was sullen. He did not feel a drop of regret. He reminded the man how meanly they wanted to do to him, and therefore he cannot wait for mercy. At that moment, Lin Xiu did not hesitate to stab him several times in the chest. An alert came from the system. Lin Xiu gained 2,500 experience and reached the 7th level. One spin was additionally provided as a prize. Delighted with the new promotion, Lin Xiu began to think about how he could wisely distribute the points he had gained. He decided to divide equally between speed and endurance. With this distribution, it will be easier for him to maintain a balance of power. Lin Xiu saved the rotation for later, so that he could use it in a calm environment when he was resting. In the meantime, I went to look at the trophies. After repeated blows, Lin Xiu was finally able to split the python's head into pieces. A glow appeared in the middle of the head. It was the first abnormal crystal he had ever seen. The lens inside the evolved beast was the source of its power. Warriors can absorb the energy contained in it to become stronger, or use it as a power source for any devices. In the bags of these people, he found 2 more anomalous crystals of the 2nd rank. After rummaging a little more, he took what he needed. But I did not take an extra weapon, since it would only be ballast. Having prepared for departure, he planned to find his red-haired partner, Yang Tian, and join the rest of his group. Lin Xiu did not hesitate for a long time and continued to go deeper into the forests. Finally, he came across a sign indicating a dangerous area. Deciding that it was too dangerous to linger at this place, Lin Xiu turned around and walked in the opposite direction. A deafening roar resounded throughout the forests. Lin Xiu looked into the depths of the forest and saw a huge figure. Lightning continued to fly out, and the thick trunks around him immediately charred. At this moment, he carefully looked ahead and saw a huge evolved beast right in front of him. Applying the eye of analysis, he, like last time, did not recognize either the features or the general combat capability of the monster. A thunder panther of the 4th rank was watching Lin Xiu from the tree. That 3rd rank python changing color almost killed Lin Xiu, so he definitely won't be able to defeat this 4th rank thunder panther. Lin Xiu was about to run, but he saw a woman behind him. She was wearing a combat suit and was holding a long sword emitting a cold white light. Her refined face was as calm as water. There was no expression on it. Lin Xiu was stunned. Just like the evolved monsters, this girl also defied analysis. She struck with her sword, and a white ray appeared, like a crescent moon. The beam instantly cut down trees to the side. The panther flew into a rage. As she roared, a large amount of lightning bolts burst out of her body. The battle ahead continued. The girl struck, but the panther dodged. Hitting the target, the monster flew away and landed near a tree. It was the strength of a high-ranking warrior. Seeing this, Lin Xiu couldn't help but admire. If he continues to work hard, he will be able to do it someday and even become stronger. Thinking that everything was over, Lin Xiu looked out of the bushes and began to observe what was happening. The girl slowly approached the monster lying by the tree. The Thunder Panther had received fatal sword blows, and a lot of fresh blood was flowing out of its body. It seemed that she was about to die or lose consciousness. But at that moment, the lightning leopard, who was lying on the ground without moving, turned his body over and suddenly stood up. Several giant lightning bolts burst out of it, which turned into a huge ball that rushed at the girl. She clearly didn't expect the panther to be able to attack yet. She used her longsword and blocked the blow from the front. But this ball of lightning was too scary. It even caused movement in the air around them. There was a loud bang, and the woman's body flew into the abyss near the cliff. The Thunder Panther was lying in the same place, and the lightning around its body began to disappear. The last counterattack before death. He didn't know if this monster was completely destroyed or not. If that's not the case, and he strikes the final blow, will it count as killing a big boss? Thinking about this, Lin Xiu crept up to the panther with interest. When he pulled out his battle blade, his body froze. At that moment, the guy seemed to feel that something was looking at him. Lin Xiu turned his head and saw a similar individual on a nearby tree, a Thunder Panther. Completely forgetting that such monsters usually get food in pairs, the male hunts together with the female. Lin Xiu ran as fast as he could and soon found himself at the cliff and immediately stopped. Turning to face the panther, he pulled out his blade and pointed it towards the monster. The moment the Thunder Panther pounced, Lin Xiu had already jumped down from the cliff. He would rather be smashed to pieces than become food for a panther for lunch. After falling off the cliff, Lin Xiu ended up in some kind of lake. He looked up. The cliff was very high, but its fall slightly softened several trees growing along the cliff. Looking around, he saw a familiar girl lying motionless in the water nearby, who had previously fought with the Thunder Panther. There were many cuts and abrasions on her body. Lin Xiu, after checking her breathing, made sure that the girl had simply fainted. He took her in his arms and began to get out of the water. Sitting under a tree, Lin Xiu sat her down in a comfortable position. While the girl was unconscious, Lin Xiu began to examine her. She looked to be a beauty of about 17. Suddenly, Lin Xiu's stomach let out a long rumble. He hadn't eaten anything since the morning and was hungry. He noticed several fish swimming in the water and was delighted. After a while, Lin Xiu built a fire and, having planted the fish on a branch, fried it. Lin Xiu took off his wet clothes, hanging them on the branches of trees. Sitting on a rock, he picked up one of the cooked fish and began to eat it with great appetite. The fish fried on the fire seemed surprisingly delicious to Lin Xiu, although he did not add any seasonings to it. Having a carefree lunch, Lin Xiu relaxed his vigilance, but instinctively he turned his head and saw the sword. Out of surprise, Lin Xiu subconsciously dodged to the side. The awakened girl pointed her sword at him in disbelief. Angered by ingratitude, he expressed his dissatisfaction to the girl. Lin Xiu was her savior, and without him, she would have drowned and gone to fish food. After clarifying, the girl asked again if he really saved her. Lin Xiu saw that the coldness in her eyes had dissipated and breathed a sigh of relief. He was trying to make a joke, saying that he would not force her to marry him. The girl was amazed, but then indifferently called him shameless. Omitting this situation, Lin Xiu offered the girl to eat, but she was silent and looked around, as if trying to think about something. He knew that the girl was injured and could not move much, so he advised her to eat something to restore some strength. The girl took up the stick with which the fish was pierced and walked back to the tree, keeping a short distance from the guy. Lin Xiu introduced himself to the girl, and she responded in kind. The name of this beauty is Luo Yu. After tasting the fish, she asked what Lin Xiu wanted from her. He was amazed and did not understand her. It turns out that Luo Yu does not like to remain in debt. Therefore, for her salvation, she tries to find out what Lin Xiu would like for them to be even. Otherwise, she will threaten him. Her eyes radiated determination and confidence in the justice of her words. Lin Xiu's eyes widened in surprise, and he couldn't believe his ears. After thinking about it, the guy replied that he wanted to become as cool as Luo Yu. The girl shamelessly pointed out to the guy his weak fighting inclinations. It was a blow to the heart. Lin Xiu was upset by the girl's straightforwardness. The sky gradually darkened. Luo Yu closed her eyes to rest, but Lin Xiu still felt energetic. He remembered that he had received a reward when he killed a warrior, and now he decided to use it. Lin Xiu entered the system interface, and there was indeed a bright icon. The lottery wheel was the same as before, but there was a slight change. Now it was divided into 12 sections, 2 cells related to the loss, 1 to the gift of a smile, 5 to allied coins, 3 to weapons, and the last section represented the main prize. After starting the wheel, Lin Xiu began to pray for success. Right now, he didn't need any allied coins or secret techniques, but only needed weapons. At first, there was silence around, but when Lin Xiu listened, he heard faint sounds. It seemed that the game slowed down near the allied coins. This disappointed Lin Xiu very much. However, when the guy felt indignation, the wheel shifted a little and fell on the main prize. Waving his arms joyfully, he felt his luck in this world. However, the super prize of the game was the greatness of the Phoenix. This meant a combat skill card, but only warriors of the 6th rank and above could create such a card. This card gives you the experience of owning this skill and knowledge about the process of its improvement. According to the strength of the combat skill card, it is divided into the following categories: bronze, gold, silver, and diamond. Lin Xiu was slightly disappointed. This skill card was meant for spear techniques, and it was only a bronze level card. However, at this moment, Lin Xiu noticed that the number 1 was indicated on the back of the bronze card. He was shocked. This card was even more valuable than the diamond card. It changed as the strength of its owner grew. Out of happiness, Lin Xiu began to think that since he had received a combat skill card, the next logical step would be to be able to get a suitable spear. Luo Yu opened her eyes and stared at Lin Xiu as if he was an idiot. She came up to him and asked what he was laughing at so much. Lying that nothing special had happened, Lin Xiu carefully hid his prize under his clothes. Luo Yu was disturbed by a sound in the distance. Lin Xiu guessed that people were approaching them. He had encountered such teams before, and they were like bandits. At that moment, his expression changed. Jumping up from his seat, Lin Xiu said that they should leave, because it is unclear what kind of people they are and suddenly they are hostile. Luo Yu was badly injured and had not recovered yet, so she was unable to walk on her own. Then Lin Xiu walked up to her and squatted down in front of her so that she could sit on his back. Luo Yu didn't look too happy at this moment. It was the first time she had been this close to a guy, and she felt a little weird, like she was shy. However, Lin Xiu did not stand on ceremony with her. He offered her a choice: either she would climb on his back, or she would stay here. Luo Yu made a decision, and together they fled into the depths of the forest. Soon after they set off, a group of people found a campfire where they had a camping place. When they saw that the fire had recently been extinguished, they realized that those people had heard their footsteps and left. However, they could hardly have gone far anyway. The leader of the group assumed that there were other warriors here. He smiled ominously and announced that no one should be left alive when meeting them. After walking some distance, Lin Xiu couldn't help but notice that the girl was quite heavy. Luo Yu gritted her teeth after hearing that the guy was unhappy with her weight. She began to justify that it was not she who was heavy at all, but the sword behind her back. Lin Xiu stopped, and Luo Yu asked, "What's the matter?" The guy instinctively activated the Eye of Analysis ability. In front of them, a winged red snake could be seen in the night, belonging to the evolved animals of the 2nd rank, which had a total combat capability of 670. Fortunately, this time Lin Xiu saw all the characteristics of the monster completely. He belonged to the venomous species of snakes, prone to nocturnal activity. She looked terrifying. In the darkness of the night, her eyes burned with a bright red light, and her mouth with sharp fangs was terrifying. However, Lin Xiu was not afraid, because although she had the 2nd rank, but her combat capability was not that high. Since Luo Yu couldn't fight on her own, she offered Lin Xiu her long sword. Lin Xiu didn't hesitate and immediately took it. Suddenly there was a loud sound. As soon as he picked up this long sword, he realized that it was very heavy and dropped it to the ground. The sharp blade sank deep into the ground. Lin Xiu finally understood what she meant by the weight of the sword. He was surprised that Luo Yu calmly swung such a heavy sword with one hand. Yes, that's the difference in strength in all its glory. Luo Yu demanded that Lin Xiu quickly put her down and start fighting the snake without wasting time. He pulled out a long sword from the ground and gripped it tightly with both hands. Since Luo Yu was an experienced warrior, she knew that red-winged snakes have high mobility, and they are most dangerous at night. Lin Xiu, leaving the girl aside, headed towards the snake. At that moment, the red-winged snake, hissing threateningly, flew at him with great speed. Lin Xiu swung his sword with force, but the red-winged snake was too fast and managed to dodge. After hearing Luo Yu's instructions, which advised the young man to deliver a sharp blow with a U-turn, Lin Xiu immediately took advantage of it. After a while, he was able to drive a sharp sword into the opponent's head. The guy was elated with delight after defeating the monster, but the girl was completely disappointed in the abilities of Lin Xiu, who was unable to cope with even one red snake of the 2nd rank. At that moment, the monster's head separated from its body and flew straight at Lin Xiu, biting his arm. He tore the monster's head from his hand, threw it to the ground and stomped hard on it, turning it into mud. Another notification came from the system with congratulations on the destruction of the monster. For this task, Lin Xiu received 2,500 experience points. Luo Yu definitely knew that this red-winged snake's head could be separated from its body. Lin Xiu grumpily asked her why she didn't tell him. She turned to the side and snidely replied that he had not asked her about it. Suddenly Lin Xiu, I felt a sharp pain at the bite site, and after a moment I began to be covered with red spots. Then his entire body became scalding hot, and finally he started itching. Luo Yu had completely forgotten about the properties of the venom of the red-winged snakes. Worried, the girl began to actively think about how to help Lin Xiu. She pointed him to a nearby pond where he could feel better. Without thinking twice, Lin Xiu quickly headed in that direction and jumped into the water. When the cold water soaked his entire body, he immediately felt the pain and burning in his arm recede. Luo Yu sat on the bank near a tree and waited for Lin Xiu to come out of the water. But while Lin Xiu was in the water, they were discovered by people they were trying to escape from. Luo Yu frowned and coldly shouted to a few guys standing some distance away from her to get out, otherwise it would be worse. After warning them, the girl took out her sword and pointed it at her detractors. Soon after, a group of people began to approach her. There were about 4 of them. Thanks to the equipment, it was possible to understand that they were all warriors. The blonde guy mocked the girl. He knew that she was injured and could not use her strength. From the side, they watched as the Thunder Panther's death blow threw Luo Yu off the cliff. Admiring the girl's strength, the blonde guy suggested that since she could so easily deal with a 4-rank monster, she definitely comes from a large family. Making fun of someone from high society was a kind of hobby for them. At that moment, Luo Yu's eyes narrowed. She stretched out her right hand and used her sword to attack the men. But because of her wounds and powerlessness, she collapsed to the ground. The blonde guy ordered his comrades to grab the girl. At an unexpected moment for everyone, a guy came out of the depths of the forest. A cold, angry voice rang out, asking what they were doing. The blonde guy did not assume that there was anyone else in the forest besides them. Hearing this voice, he was scared and turned around. Lin Xiu spoke slowly, looking around at everyone present. Using his eye of analysis ability, he told the warriors about several of the characteristics that belonged to them, thereby taking them by surprise. Zhang Liang and the others were stunned to hear Lin Xiu's words. They didn't see any apparatus for calculating combat strength on him, but somehow he was able to accurately measure their combat strength, and even knew their ranks. This made them shudder inwardly. After threatening violence, Lin Xiu suggested that Zhang Liang get away from here. Fearing for their lives, all the warriors rushed to run away, and Zhang Liang even apologized to him. After all that had happened, Lin Xiu walked over to Luo Yu and helped her to her feet. The girl was curious. How did Lin Xiu know the ranks and other information about these people? Referring to the fact that this information is a secret, he offered to go further into the forest. They needed to hide somewhere faster before the warriors came to their senses and returned. Lin Xiu did not hesitate for a long time. Sitting Luo Yu on his back, he ran to the other side of the forest. After a moment, the warriors returned to the same place from which they had fled in fear. They looked around, but there was no one around. Zhang Sen became indignant that Lin Xiu and Luo Yu had tricked them. He thought that if that guy really was a high-level master, he wouldn't leave in a hurry. Zhang Liang struck the tree with his fist out of his overflowing anger. Such a blow at the moment broke the trunk of the plant into pieces. Zhang Liang decided to take revenge on Lin Xiu and Luo Yu for deceiving him. He decided that the guys would have to cross the border of the forbidden area anyway, and at that moment a group of warriors would grab them. The men can only establish surveillance of the border and wait for the appearance of the enemy. Lin Xiu and Luo Yu continued to walk forward. Then the girl asked why they were continuing to move into the forbidden area. The strength of the local beasts is much higher, so it is dangerous to be here. Lin Xiu adhered to the theory that the more dangerous the place, the quieter the situation there. On the way, they noticed a tall tree wrapped in vines. There was a hole in the trunk of the tree that looked like a large hollow. Having decided to take a break in this place, they settled down in it. The guy decided to share his thoughts with Luo Yu. He assumed that if those types came to their senses and returned, the first thing they thought about was Yu, who was injured and could not go far. This was one of the reasons why Lin Xiu decided to go deeper into the forest. This way they would be able to leave the forbidden area faster. However, everything will not be so simple. Most likely, a group of warriors will want to triple their trap on the border. Therefore, they will make a halt here until Luo Yu recovers his strength. The girl was pleasantly shocked at how reasonable Lin Xiu could be. As night fell, the forest was covered with the bright light of fireflies. From fatigue, the guys fell asleep instantly. The next morning, when Lin Xiu woke up, he saw that the sky had begun to lighten. In addition, Lin Xiu realized that someone was lying next to him at that moment. He was taken aback at first, but after a split second he came to his senses. Luo Yu was also asleep at this moment, and the eyes on her delicate and fair face were tightly closed. After a while, Luo Yu had already opened her eyes. She instinctively felt the evolved beast that was approaching them. Lin Xiu looked out of the tree. They decided to leave the shelter to get ready to fight the monster. Lin Xiu inquired about Luo Yu's condition. He thought that if she was preparing for a fight, then she had already recovered. However, only the girl knew that it would take her about 2 more days. Luo Yu threw her sword to Lin Xiu. She let him fight the monster with her weapon. In front of him, the young man saw a fanged boar of the 2nd rank. The animal belonged to the class of mammals with high defensive capability, using a battering ram attack in battle. Lin Xiu, holding a sword in 2 hands, prepared for battle. With a wild yell, the boar rushed into battle. Time passed quickly. During these 2 days, Lin Xiu used Luo Yu's long sword and continued to kill the evolved beasts. A couple of days later, in the early morning, Lin Xiu reached level 9, during which time he destroyed about 30 monsters. Luo Yu was frightening. Despite her young age, she was well aware of the habits, methods of attacks, and vulnerabilities of various animals. Lin Xiu couldn't help but admire her. Under her guidance, he managed to cope even with 2 monsters of the 3rd rank. Turning to Luo Yu, Lin Xiu asked her if she needed abnormal crystals. The girl refused the offer. At that moment, she had almost completely recovered, so she indifferently offered to say goodbye to him. Lin Xiu was unhappy that Luo Yu was not going to take responsibility for the fact that it was her fault that the warriors hunted the guy. He also wondered where she was going to go after they separated. She announced that she would go in search of the Thunder Panther. Lin Xiu was surprised that Luo Yu still intended to kill this monster. The girl wanted to take revenge. She didn't plan to lose anymore. Before saying goodbye, Luo Yu threatened the guy that if he did not surpass her in strength in their next meeting, she would simply kill him. Lin Xiu was stunned, his eyes widened in fear. This woman bit the hand that fed her. Finally, Lin Xiu asked where she was from. Sacred area was all she answered before she finally disappeared. It's been 2 days since Lin Xiu and Luo Yu separated. Finally, the guy reached the border where the territory of the dangerous area ended. With the hope that those warriors had already left, he began to look around. At that moment, a cold light flashed by and the sword sliced through the air. Lin Xiu quickly bent down and dodged, but a piece of his hair was still cut off. Startled by surprise, Lin Xiu turned around to find out who had attacked him. Standing in front of him was the green-haired Jiang Sen, who was part of the team of warriors they had met a few days ago that night. After jumping back to a safe distance, he was ready to attack again. Jiang Sen chuckled. He was glad that they did not have time to remove the surveillance, and he caught Lin Xiu by surprise. Not paying attention to the fact that Luo Yu was not near the guy, Jiang Sen directed his sword and began to attack the young man. Lin Xiu looked around and realized that the warrior was alone. As long as Jiang Sen was a warrior of the 1st rank, Lin Xiu had a chance to win. The long sword in Jiang Sen's hand, with the help of a bronze skill, took the form of a snake as he swung at the opponent. Lin Xiu used his battle blade to block the blow. There was a loud sound when the metals collided. The guy flew away from the force of the blow. Gritting his teeth, Lin Xiu realized how much he missed the spear that Luo Yu had given him. In an instant, the strength of his anger reached the 90% mark. Throwing his sword over his shoulder, Jiang Sen, who was standing not far from the guy, began to mock him. He couldn't believe that a nobody like Lin Xiu, who hadn't even mastered a single combat skill, could fool them. Without thinking twice, Jiang Sen moved to close the distance and attack his opponent. When they were next to each other, their swords locked, and at that moment the system announced the possibility of using the power of anger as it reached its maximum. Without hesitation, Lin Xiu agreed and channeled the force into the leg. He intended to strike. Jiang Sen mockingly decided to stop the attack with his bare hands. The moment he touched Lin Xiu's leg, he felt a sharp pain that indicated that his limb had been shattered. Crouching on his knees, Jiang Sen fell to the ground. The sword fell out of his hands, and then, taking advantage of the moment when the opponent was immobilized, Lin Xiu swung his blade and in an instant finally finished with Jiang Sen. For destroying a warrior of the 1st rank, Lin Xiu received 2,300 experience points. The system congratulated him on raising the level, which has already reached the 10th. Also, thanks to his achievement, the young man was able to open access to the explosion of anger ability. Burst of Anger is an activated ability that allows you to significantly increase strength, speed, and endurance for 10 minutes. After the end of the ability, the owner will be in a state of extreme exhaustion for 5 minutes. Lin Xiu's eyes lit up with the joy of discovering a new ability. The young man added the accumulated points to the speed characteristic. Before Lin Xiu could take a break, a loud voice called out to his partner, Zhang San. Several people who were in the same group as Zhang San appeared on the battlefield. They surrounded Lin Xiu with the intention of getting rid of him. The blonde guy saw his friend lying on the ground and became indignant. Looking around, Lin Xiu realized that there were 4 warriors of the first rank and 1 of the second. He didn't have a single chance of winning. Zhang Liang looked at Lin Xiu with a murderous look. He was not going to leave this guy alive and ordered everyone to attack and kill the young man. Obeying the order of their leader, the warriors all went on the attack together. Lin Xiu swore angrily. The difference in their levels was too great, and he couldn't do anything against them. For the battle, Zhang Liang used his silver air blade skill and headed into battle. Due to the fact that Lin Xiu was alone and his opponents were 5, he realized that he could only use his newly acquired skill. His eyes lit up, and at the same moment, the skill was activated. Lin Xiu felt a surge of strength and endurance that intensified at once, and the sensations were unusually strong. Zhang Liang was surprised by what he saw, shocked by what was happening. He didn't understand why Lin Xiu's aura had changed dramatically. With the speed of light, the young man took off. After losing sight of Lin Xiu, Zhang Liang ordered everyone to disperse in different directions and find him. Lin Xiu was able to climb a tree with the help of speed, and the lush foliage above him hid his presence. Still at the top of the tree, he held his breath and began to think about his plan of action. The explosion of anger will be in effect for another 5 minutes. After that, he will fall into a state of complete exhaustion. When that happens, Lin Xiu will be completely at their mercy, so he needs to fight with a lightning outcome. Watching from the tree, the guy saw Lin Xiu, a warrior of the first rank, who had a spear behind his back. Lin Xiu, breaking through the gaps in the leaves, immediately rushed down. He took his chance. Before the warrior could react, Lin Xiu jumped on the man. With his punch, Lin Xiu knocked him out and knocked him to the ground. Without hesitation, the young man immediately took the long silver spear from the man. The tip of the spear was very sharp and even emitted a cold sheen. At the moment when Lin Xiu was inspecting his new weapon, he was discovered by Lai Hong. He was just another warrior who was hunting him. Lai Hong gave his comrades information about Lin Xiu's whereabouts. Zhang Liang, hearing this, ordered him to detain the guy until they arrived. With a threatening cry, Lai Hong rushed at Lin Xiu. Using his bronze stormy flow skill, the man joined the fight. Lin Xiu took advantage of the phoenix's greatness, and his bronze skill gave the young man incredible strength. Flames flared up around him, and his spear, which took the form of a snake, headed forward. Surprised by Lin Xiu's abilities, Lai Hong froze. Without thinking twice, Lin Xiu attacked the opponent. He unleashed his own skill, which was accompanied by strong gusts of wind. The blow was lightning fast and passed through Lai Hong's body. The warrior was destroyed, and for this Lin Xiu received an additional 2,200 experience points. By this time, the remaining warriors had arrived. Zhang Liang and everyone else were shocked. They could not understand how Lin Xiu with his insignificant strength could kill Lai Hong with one blow. All the remaining warriors attacked him together. Zhang Liang used the silver skill of the Blade of Madness, and his comrades each used their own ability. The first was the bronze skill, Vortex Axe. The second was the bronze skill, Cross Cutting. Lin Xiu didn't think that using the greatness of the Phoenix would be so energy consuming, and even with the boost from the Rage Explosion buff, he would only be able to use this skill twice. While the young man was fighting off the attacks of the warriors, his anger power had accumulated to 60%. Without letting Lin Xiu rest, Zhang Liang struck countless blows. The young man needed to focus on the second-ranked warrior and destroy him as quickly as possible. He believed that when you catch bandits, you need to start with the leader. Lin Xiu turned to Zhang Liang. He wondered if this was really a warrior of the initial stage. Lin Xiu was able to hold on for so long in front of the onslaught of 3 experienced warriors, so everyone believed that he used some secret skill that gives force reinforcement. Speaking about this, Zhang Liang said that such abilities have a limited duration of action. In addition, there are strong side effects, and if they do not let him escape, he will soon give up. By this time, the accumulation of anger had been completed, and the system again suggested that Lin Xiu use the accumulated force strike. Taking advantage of the moment, Lin Xiu gripped his spear tightly and shouted at Zhang Liang. The warrior decided that he could easily stop such an attack, so the man made a shield out of his sword to block the blow. However, under the onslaught of the force, his sword shattered. Zhang Liang's face fell from what he saw. He was shocked at how strong Lin Xiu was. Without stopping, the young man began to attack the warrior for the second time with the help of Felix's greatness. He intensified his attack and directed it at Zhang Liang. Lin Xiu used a golden skill, and the blonde guy couldn't believe it. The spear hit the warrior in the stomach, but under the onslaught of force it could not stand and broke. Lin Xiu was very upset that the spear broke at a key moment. He felt a sense of hopelessness that everything was over since the effect of the explosion of anger had already stopped, and he had no strength to hold a weapon in his hands. Seeing the young man's confused state, Zhang Liang was very happy and thanked the heavens for giving him a chance to win. With rage in his eyes, he rushed to attack Lin Xiu, but it was not there. A bright light that swept with great speed fenced him off from the guy. A beautiful young girl in a white medical gown came out of the forest. She indignantly asked Zhang Liang when it was that the insignificant second-rank warriors from the hunting squads had the audacity to attack Starlight students. Unable to object to her, the blonde guy decided to ask who this girl is. Coming even closer, she turned to the soldiers and replied that they were not old enough to ask her name. The words of the young girl were frightening. It was clear from the faces of the warriors that they were afraid. Standing between Lin Xiu and Zhang Liang, she suggested that they get out of here, because now her priority is to help the wounded. However, if the warriors remain, then the girl does not mind dealing with them. Lin Xiu was familiar with this girl. She was the nurse who treated him after the fight with Ma Qiang. Using the eye of analysis, he saw that this girl's name was Xiao Ruishui. She was a 4th-rank warrior. When Lin Xiu saw her for the first time, he thought she was an ordinary person. Frightened by Xiao Ruishui, the bandits ran away in fear, leaving them alone. The nurse looked at Lin Xiu with admiration. She was delighted and would never have thought that he would be able to cope with 3 warriors of the 1st rank and almost defeat a warrior of the 2nd. Lin Xiu was wondering why the nurse was here, and then she told him that she was a doctor at the academy, and, of course, she needed to be at the battlefield to treat wounded students. Xiao Ruishui offered to examine the young man to tend to his wounds, but he refused. Then the nurse helped him up and offered to escort him to the exit, where the gathering of students had already begun. But Lin Xiu refused this help. At that moment, at the exit of the A20 zone, the teacher was listing the names of the warriors present and the trophies they had collected. Zhu Jun, 3 crystals of the 1st rank, Lai Yan, 1 crystal of the 2nd rank and 4 crystals of the 1st rank. After several days of practice in a real combat situation, everyone's strength increased, so the teacher felt an increased determination in them. He believed that only real combat could really harden a person. The teacher began to look around with concern and then turned to Yang Tian. He wondered if he had seen Lin Xiu, since he was the only one who was absent from the general gathering. Yan Tian's expression changed. He shook his head and recalled everything that had happened that day. He said that they were attacked by a python of the 3rd rank. Lin Xiu got into a desperate situation, and in this regard, he was forced to flee to the forbidden area. The teacher was shocked by what he heard. He asked Yang Tian with a stutter, did he really run there alone? Then Zhang Yi snorted and jumped into the conversation. He reasoned with mockery and contempt that if Lin Xiu went to the forbidden zone, then most likely he was not killed by zombies. He was devoured by evolved beasts. Yang Tian, determined to defend his friend's honor, rushed at Zhang Yi. He grabbed him by the collar and, furiously clenching his fist, was ready to hit him. The fight between the guys was interrupted by the teacher. He notified everyone that they would be waiting, since, given the situation Lin Xiu was in, he could not return so quickly. Zhu Jun came to Zhang Yi's defense. He believed that there was no point in waiting for Lin Xiu, since this trash was most likely already in the next world, and he did not want to stay here until nightfall. At that moment, a voice came from afar, asking who was it from the crowd that was conjuring his death. Everyone turned around with interest. Lin Xiu appeared in front of them. He walked and looked haughtily at Zhu Jun. Yan Tian was delighted when he saw Lin Xiu, but Zhu Jun was not thrilled that he survived. Pleased with himself, the young man approached the teacher. He asked him about his health, to which Lin Xiu replied that he was fine. Zhang Yi's friend with lilac hair and a bun on his head appreciated Lin Xiu. Seeing that he returned empty-handed, I decided to make fun of him. Lin Xiu was no longer the same as before, so with self-confidence, he resolutely turned to the offenders with the intention of rebuffing them. He asked them haughtily how their hunt had gone. A friend began to praise Zhang Yi, who was able to kill 8 first-rank monsters. Hearing this, the crowd began to admire him. Zhang Yi, pleased, was bursting into a proud smile. However, Lin Xiu was not surprised like many. He found such a number of abnormal crystals insufficient. Then he took off his backpack from his back and, stretching it forward, shook out the contents. Seeing a lot of precious stones in front of him, the teacher began to count them. Crystal of the first rank, 16 pieces. Crystal of the second rank, 5 pieces. Crystal of the third rank, 3 pieces. Looking at the crystal of the third rank, the teacher could not believe his eyes. He could not imagine that someone could bring so many abnormal crystals of the third rank. Everything that was happening seemed unreal to him. Not only the teacher was shocked, all the students in that place began to cry out in surprise. Many repeated the impossibility of what was happening. Zhang Yi twisted his face in envy. He accused Lin Xiu of cheating. Then the teacher asked Zhang Yi with displeasure what exactly was his deception. A unit of crystal of the third rank costs at least 4 or 500,000, so it is impossible for an ordinary student to find more than 1 million to buy 3 crystals of the third rank. Zhang Yi could not object to the teacher. Deciding not to stir up a quarrel, the teacher suggested that everyone go to the tavern and have a rest there. Formally, none of those present was a warrior, so they had no opportunity to sell the anomalous crystal through the network of the military alliance. However, the owner of the tavern is buying it up, so students can sell their earned trophies to him. In the evening, when the sun began to set over the horizon, the students reached the tavern. People showed their trophies, and the owner of the establishment, examining them, offered the appropriate price. For an abnormal crystal of the first rank, a person could get about 1,000 alliance coins. After arriving at the tavern, Lin Xiu and Yang Tian got in line. Due to the fact that the guy had too much abnormal crystal, they had to stand last in the waiting line. When it came to Lin Xiu's turn, he emptied everything onto the table. The owner began to look at the crystals of the third rank with interest. Due to the fact that they were very difficult to get, almost unreal, they were highly appreciated. Lin Xiu was interested in money, so he asked how much the trophies would cost. Without hesitation, the owner shouted out the amount, which was 500,000 coins. Enthusiastically, everyone present began to count the total amount of profit that Lin Xiu could get in the end. The owner turned to the young man and asked for his alliance card number to immediately transfer all the money to him. Unceremoniously pushing Lin Xiu away from the counter where the sale of abnormal crystals was taking place, 2 students approached there. With contempt in their eyes, they looked around the audience. Using his ability, Lin Xiu decided to find out information about them. Standing in front of him was Sun Chen, who had already reached the position of a candidate warrior. He was tall and of strong build. The first thing that caught your eye when you looked at him was an earring with a golden sheen in his lip. Next to him was a warrior of the initial stage, Lai Yuan. For Lin Xiu, their characteristics or general combat potential was hidden, since he was their junior in rank. Lin Xiu was lost in thought with a sullen expression on his face. As he had guessed, the warriors from the first group were standing in front of him. There were rumors about this squad that all of its students had already reached the initial stage, and about a dozen of them had already become candidates for warriors. Then he turned his gaze to Sun Chen, who seems to be already in the 108th place in the academic ranking of strength. Sun Chen, putting down his bag of trophies, turned to the owner of the tavern and offered him 10 pieces of first-rank crystal, as well as 2 second-rank ones. Casting a contemptuous glance in the direction of the 29th group, he said that only someone who is able to kill an evolved beast of the second rank can be considered strong. But they do not understand this, since they are just a bunch of weaklings. Sun Chen remembered that it was in this group that a familiar trash named Lin Xiu was located. At that moment, Lin Xiu got into his monologue. He was absolutely indifferent to the fact that Sun Chen and his friend got in without a queue. He was offended by insulting words in his address. The young man's face twisted with anger, and he demanded a word of apology, otherwise this loser would teach him a lesson. Sun Chen was in a rage. Even the veins bulged on his face turned purple with anger. From such disrespect, he decided to hit Lin Xiu so that, in his opinion, this non-entity would know his place. The guy was ready to attack. A loud explosion was heard from the impact. Logically, Sun Chen believed that his fist was enough to smash Lin Xiu's fist into splinters. Reality struck him when he was surprised to find that not only Lin Xiu's fist was fine, but his fist was also in pain. Without hesitating, he continued to attack with his foot. But Lin Xiu seemed to have foreseen this. He carried out a reverse kick and, smashing Sun Chen's face into blood, pushed him some distance away. The entire 29th group cheered. She supported Lin Xiu. But at that moment, Sun Chen completely lost control of himself, because Lin Xiu completely enraged him. He was covered with a strong white aura surrounding his body, his eyes glittering with anger. Using the bronze skill and the swift fist, Sun Chen began to continuously strike countless blows with great power. Deftly and effortlessly, Lin Xiu dodged the attacks. At that moment, his accumulated anger strength had reached 90%. Watching the fight from the sidelines, Zhang Yi could not believe that Lin Xiu could become so strong in just 3 martial practices. However, no matter how strong he is, students from the best group cannot be defeated so easily. Sun Chen mocked Lin Xiu. He saw that the young man could only pathetically dodge the attacks. Then he decided to deliver a powerful blow. He aimed his fist at Lin Xiu.